All right. Well, I did want to start the call. I just wanted to say I didn't get Corona out here yet, but I do have my own special homemade brew. I
Homemade, huh?
I was
Nice.
really well, yeah, by a friend of mine, Woody, over at what's his place called? Kayla Resort in Dimiao, Bohol. So if anyone ever comes
Hmm.
out here, he's a fellow Californian that does his own little microbrewery. So yeah, this is like a Belgian dark beer. I think he calls it the Beast. I'm drinking the Beast.
Interesting. That's pretty awesome.
Um, so anyhow, but let's get down to business, buddy. So today, I think I lost my place because I was looking into the next couple days. Yeah, we're on part three of the Warrior Stack journaling training from Garrett J.
Hmm.
White. Um, Eric and I here, we're just chatting a little bit before we officially started about Garrett and the Warrior movement. So in the last two segments, if you guys are gonna, if you follow along and watch these, we looked at in part one, we looked at fear and kind of identified the top four stories attached to those big fears. In this instance, fears around the coronavirus and the economic crisis and the lockdown and the what else do we have going on? The murder hornets and the riots and lots of things going on in the world. So whatever that is for you guys, given this strange state of the world, yeah, we identified our biggest fears and then really figured out, okay, what are the top four stories that those are kind of that I keep playing in my head that are attached to those fears. Part two was we looked at the facts, and so that, if you go through, did you go through that one yet? Part two, Eric?
I'm working on family right now.
Cool, good. And I think I'd mentioned either last time on with you or maybe in one of our group calls, but there is also, yeah, go through that, get that done, and then in the next few days, I'm going to share something else with you guys that's a more general and a more broad. It's our baseline assessment for the whole four pillars here in the Foundry, so that kind of links up nicely. It might even be able to copy some of your answers over if you're lucky, just for simplicity's sake. But anyhow, last time you and I met, we were looking at face your facts. I think you called it. So hopefully that process gives you more clarity about just your current reality, like the real situation you find yourself in. Not the story so much, not the ambiguous, maybe colossal fears, but like, okay, what's truly going on for me today, right now? In your bank account, in your business, in your relationships, your family, your marriage, etc. So today, yeah, part three is, I believe he calls it "Awaken the Faith" or "Awaken Faith." Sorry, a little bit. Let's see, just a little bit to set us up. So after getting clear on your fears as well as your facts, we begin to see what's actually possible for us individually, right? Not as a fantasy, as Garrett says, but as a reality, like what's truly possible from where you are. Um, and working on, yeah, really getting clear on that baseline assessment of where you are today. With this short sequence, we just look at kind of two main pillars, the two, for guys like us, the two biggest, most important pillars. But within the Foundry, even our general four pillars baseline assessment, that it should help give you a foundation of the facts, the truth, the what am I trying to say? Like kind of look at the bullet points in each of those areas of your life as they are now, the good and the ugly, right? But at least you're building, yeah, like on a sturdy foundation, which, like, getting clear about this, building that foundation is what's going to help obliterate the lies, in yourself, in your own life, And I think it might even somehow impact beyond that, some of the lies we've been talking about on our group calls lately. But none of that stuff matters if you don't have a real, if you don't get your belief right, your mindset right, and if you don't have some form of faith, at least in yourself, to get to a better place, to climb the mountain in a sense. Um, so today's assignment is all about like creating that belief, that faith that you need, that's in a better possible future, so that it can help you kind of make this leap of faith, right? This leap into the unknown, whatever you're working on, whether it's business or trying to grow in one of the other areas of life. But it usually entails like there's a lot of unknown territory for us, and so you need this faith as a almost like gasoline, to power you. I think one of the things in his video training, I think one of the things that I remember that stuck out to me that Garrett was talking about is how, you've got this set of facts today for you in your current reality, your status quo on the hero's journey, kind of the beginning stage. And then there's like another set of facts that exist somewhere out there in the ether, almost like a set of facts in your future. The ideal person you want to become, the business you want to build, and the family, and the home, the community, etc. The things you want to build and have, and there's a set of facts attached to that vision for where you're going. And they don't really exist yet, but they are within your reach, to some degree, as long as you're not kind of creating from a place of lying to yourself, or from a fantasy. But that's the mission we're all on, right? It's like we see where we are, you get really, really clear on the facts of where you are today, and then you identify where you want to go, and you get clear on kind of the facts of where your life needs to be in all major areas in order to have that, to fulfill that vision. And that's what's going to allow you to make that change, to tackle that gap, like you and I were talking about earlier, Eric. So today's journaling process will help you not only spark that belief that you need, but also move you forward towards the possibilities that I'm hoping that you're starting to see, for that bigger, better future for yourself, for your business, and for your family. Another thing I think that Garrett brought up was how, in the context of this particular crisis with COVID, he said it isn't really the coronavirus that may have bungled things up for you, may have screwed up your life, or kind of undermine certain opportunities, but it's actually what it actually did, this crisis, is it's exposed you. It's exposed the reality. It's exposed your lies. Maybe it's exposed your weak areas, things that perhaps you were not really clear with yourself about before. So in a sense, I think it's it's kind of a blessing, because it has exposed a lot of truths for each of us individually, and maybe societally too. But yeah, it's time to go from being a pretender to actually being a producer, and I do this. I still do this. It's to some degree. I'm sure we all lie to ourselves. I sure try, if I'm conscious of it, try as hard as possible through all these journaling processes, through doing this inner work, through keeping myself in check, with the accountability of others. I'm growing in that sense, but a lot of us, especially early on in our careers, may get caught up in this habit of kind of being a pretender, maybe you think you've got it together way better than you actually do. So, there's too many people out there who are literally pretending to be something they're not. I'm not insinuating that for any of you guys in our our group, but at some level, we're probably lying to ourselves, right? About like just what the reality is or how serious problems may be. So this part of the sequence, I think, is really going to help us start to go, look at those facts and really evaluate, okay, what's truly possible for us, like from here, where can I really go, and what's it going to take, and am I willing to give, what it's going to take to get what I want. And the other thing that he touched on during his video training was, once you establish those 2 points, to where you are now and to where you're going, what you really have to let go of is, like, you will need to sacrifice something in order to become someone bigger and better, or in order to build a business, or whatever. Every good thing that comes into our lives kind of it requires time and energy. So you might need to let go of other things. But the biggest thing that we need to let go of is the stories that we were telling ourselves in those last two segments of the training. It's the behaviors as well that might likely be linked up with those stories. So I think I shared with you just about how, I think I really did get in a bit of a depressive cycle, and was just kind of sedating too much, just drinking too much and smoking too much, etc., wasting time, and even like the kind of the addiction to some of the bad news or the conspiratorial ideas out there, So all of that sort of stuff has to go, And I think, I think that for all of us in this group, we've been talking about this these last few weeks, but it's really a process of coming to terms like, okay, we have to let go of what was, and we still have a lot, but there's certain things that, the world is just not the same and probably isn't going to be the same again. So no point waiting around for things to go back to normal to just get down to business. But let go of what was, let go of the negative stories, let go of the behaviors that are holding you back or undermining you. And, the hero's journey is really about that process of building up the courage to sacrifice your old self, your old stories, your storyline, in order to become the person that you really truly desire to be, to become the hero, right? I would say often in a story, like, it's the protagonist of the story at first, and they don't always become a hero, but it's like a process of becoming that hero because of the other things that they set aside and the new things that they pick up to move forward, right? Any thoughts from you, Eric?
Now, you mentioned the hero's journey, and I know you posted something recently, like the hero's journey and entrepreneurs and everything. I think it was on Facebook.
Oh yeah.
Hero group, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, you like the hero's journey of entrepreneurship. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I think the first time I gave one of my short workshops on what the stages of the hero's journey are, I gave it actually in Bangkok with Dwight, and like a community of, I mean, we had some people there on retreat with us, but also a lot of the kids and the like refugee community that he works with. And I thought it was really fascinating because it seemed, there's a little bit of a communication barrier to some degree, but a lot of, like, two or three people, I think at least, came up to me afterwards, just really excited and really engaged. And they were like, this is like, wow, I never thought about my life in these terms, And so that was really incredible. Also, I mean, people who've been through real hard times, like losing their family and going through violence and religious persecution, stuff like that. And the fact that it resonated with that audience really gave me a lot of faith, I guess. So, but it's interesting how, because early on I was kind of really looking at, okay, how does it apply? It's a little bit unique in different instances, but it really applies to any big life goal like, yeah, entrepreneurs, there's a journey of just learning. I get, even as a student, you go through a hero's journey in school. Leaving home and becoming an adult. The maturation process is a hero's journey. Becoming a parent is a hero's journey.
Mm.
It applies to a lot of things. I think it probably resonates with people who join the military, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, that was a pretty good one. So so let's dive in though to these questions here. So part three, awaken faith. So the first question from Garrett is, what has changed, if anything, in your thoughts since starting this series? Um, and again, it's been a couple days at least since we were in the middle of this process, but just, yeah, and depending when you guys actually tune in and watch, like, just to set the frame again, I think I answered these in like the very beginning of April. So I'm looking back on these stories like about 5 months later, right? So anyhow, so at that time, yeah, awaken faith. What has changed, if anything, in your thoughts since starting this series? So, after having done those first two segments, and I said, it has helped show me that I truly must master my stories right now, so that I can lead my family and other, customers, other men, in rewriting their stories. It has shown me that what I focus on grows, and I've been focused on the wrong things for far too long. Even though I feel, even though I feel weak in both money and marriage, I see that I have done the work and built a pretty sturdy foundation and faith upon which I can get my business and life working. I think I think I am ahead of most of the competition as I look around and see so many people flipping out and focused on fear. After having done even just the first two journaling sequences in this process, like, it really did kind of, yeah. I zoomed way in on the big, hairy, scary fears, which is scary, it's troublesome, but then looking at the facts, I think it already had started to help, that among other things, but started putting me back in a better mental space. And it's, I think I really did kind of, what's the word, have an initial gut reaction early at the very beginning, because I was just imagining, like, yeah, the worst case scenario. And like, my wife was telling me, oh, don't be paranoid or whatever. But almost because of that, like, I was really stressed out and really kind of petrified a bit at the very beginning. But once I started to kind of ground myself again with this process, and just, yeah, look at the actual current reality and start to activate faith, like, I was feeling like, man, I mean, everyone else is really freaking out about, like, when is this going to end, and worrying about all kinds of things. So I actually, it was interesting that I felt more grounded, I think, than most of the people around me. Okay, but question two. Well, actually, before we go on, yeah, I mean, I know you haven't completed this section, but did you have any general thoughts on that one? What's changed, if anything, for you since you started the first and part of the second journaling exercise here with the stack?
I guess one of the things it brings up is how vulnerable, I guess, I am through all this, the whole situation going on, and how essentially, if I can't, I guess, accomplish my goals that I have as far as like business goes and family goes, I mean, it doesn't promise a very, I guess, great looking future. So it kind of helps me to drive me to work on what I'm working on right now.
Yeah,
Um, it's a, I guess it's motivating in sorts to help push you forward.
yeah, yeah. Using those fears to push you to do the things need to get done, right? Like we've been talking
Hmm.
about lately. Well, that's good. Um, so question number two. What do you notice you're feeling as you head into this third action map? And I said, calmness, confidence, I have faith. And I see that many people are lacking it. If I can narrow down my focus, my execution, my purpose, and put all my effort there, I believe I'm created for this moment in history to help lead others. So like I was already sounding, I think, miles away from my tone in the prior exercises. Question 3. Have things for you personally gotten more stressful or less stressful in the past week, and why do you feel that is? I said less stressful for sure at the time. Things with Jam and I are improving big time, and honestly, I don't even know why, but I imagine it has to do with my demeanor, my attitude, my confidence, my stillness, and I think I'm blessed to be able to provide that for my wife and my family in a time of major crisis like this. It was a great relief to see friends recently. I think I had my first interaction in person with other people, and that probably made a big difference. And it was wonderful. It was a wonderful opportunity to celebrate Easter with my family this weekend. I'm relatively at ease knowing there's food growing in the garden. We have stockpiles of food, gasoline, water, and protection. Now I'm feeling the calling to move my focus to serving my clients and doing the work in ways I'd been struggling to do before. So yeah, it's kind of already giving me like that extra push that you're talking about. It's like I did take time those first few weeks to we did a lot of shopping, not for toilet paper so much, but I was trying to secure some more long-term sustainability things, because like you said, it's I immediately, on day one, I started thinking about what are the vulnerabilities in my household and in the family and just my surroundings, and started to make some purchases based on that, and so that helped put me in a better place too, just feeling more confident. And then I think, where was I? Yeah, even the public conversation that I see, at least online and with friends, generally seems to be moving in a more positive, hopeful direction already. And that was back in April. So, we were still kind of thinking, it might not last for 6 months, but yeah, the energy must have been, at least in my conversations, was kind of a little more positive. But again, it's I want to go back and say, I think even just the fact that I'd identified some of those fears for myself, and the facts, and I'd done some of what was required to plug some of those holes, to address some of the vulnerabilities. Maybe, just maybe, it was simply that. It was my own feelings, the week prior, had out, into what I was seeing, versus when I'd kind of taken care of some of that stuff. The next week, I felt way better already. What do you think? Any thoughts?
For over the last week, and at least for me, being stressful, it's been nice to, I guess, get away from work for a bit, to not have to. I was on vacation for about 2 weeks previously, and in the next 2 weeks or so, I'll be on another vacation. So it's nice to get out and clear my head and just think about things, and just don't have to worry about work-related tasks.
That's good. Okay, so next question from Garrett. Why do you continue to choose to complete these action guides? I said, I know this is a life-changing tool to share with my guys in the Foundry, and so personally, I did know, because I shared with you, it's the full stack is in this book, the Warrior book, and I've been through it, I've used it, but I also really like the way he really directly adapted this to this particular situation with this crisis. But yeah, it's I knew this is a great tool. I'd used it before, and I wanted to go through this process and share it with you guys in the Foundry. I said, and I know that I must practice, make this habit part of my regular routines, and master my personal narrative if I'm going to rise and become the man, the leader, the king I desire to be. So yeah, like I know I need to drill the stack, you know, and make it a more almost, you know, get towards a daily practice. And I just finished that one off. I said, what better way to get clear about my facts, the possibility, and my direction right now? So what about you? Yeah, why do you get on these calls with me? Why do you? What makes you continue to work on journaling, as difficult as it may be?
Well, it's something as far as journaling goes, something that I've never done, and I believe that it's a really good way to, I guess, to get a clear picture on everything going on. To, I guess, help clear your mind at the same time. It helps, I guess, it'll help eventually with personal growth. And I just believe that, I mean, right now that'd be priceless to be able to I guess get a clearer picture on everything and to help improve myself because I guess I'm that's I guess that's a big hurdle to overcome is improving yourself, and it's something that I want to focus on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think I've said it many times, right? It's like I can and will share kind of a process with you guys, but I really believe like the answers, like no one can give you answers. I can give you answers, but they exist somewhere inside you, you know. And so, yeah, when I was telling you before, I think we started the recording, like I think I started journaling probably around 2015 sometime, and like as a personal development tool. And yeah, it's like before that. I mean, I guess before that, I really thought of it more like a diary, you know, and I did kind of dismiss it as sort of a silly thing. But yeah, it's like I started with gratitude practice and writing it out, you know, and like identifying the things that I'm appreciative for and the positive stuff. And I just for a while, quite a long time actually, I did it as a daily practice. Like I'm just really stuck with it, and I noticed how it really, you know, improved my overall mood and mindset, my perspective on the world. You know, it's like it really helped turn my life around. So I started to take it more seriously, and then I started to find, you know, more and more in-depth, more advanced kind of exercises, I guess, to go through.
Well,
But yeah.
my wife used to journal and everything, and I used to look at it the way you did as well. I was like, oh, that's a diary. That's like so, I don't know, middle school, you know,
Yeah,
teenage type thing, and
yeah.
I
For like
guess it hasn't been
14-year-old
until
girls.
recently. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but yeah, when you do it in terms of like writing about like the nitty gritty of your life and just being honest with yourself, and yeah, like visioneering kind of like the future that you really want. I think I mean, you can't beat it. You can't beat it. So, okay, the next kind of subsection, we get into those fear stories from, I think that it was identified in the first day, right? But we had those kind of four biggest fear stories that we are telling ourselves based on maybe the overwhelming kind of ambiguous fear of the crisis, the situation in general. So okay, so yeah, in this section it asks about fear story number one. What is the dominant fear story? Uh, and yeah, so we're gonna go back to my like pretty extreme, kind of embarrassing, weird. This is my like legitimate biggest fears that I was weird stuff swirling through my head, which is, yeah, like the dominant fear story for me was this is the end times, like the devil's taking off the mask and we're gonna plunge into a book of Revelations type scenario I wrote with a nefarious one world government fast emerging that will that will dehumanize us all and subject us to suffering, slavery, and despair. That's what I wrote.
Mm.
And there's still, I guess there are days, there are moments when I wonder, but yeah, I kind of laugh when I look back. But what are your thoughts? What did
Well,
you identify in the last two sections about like what's the biggest fear story that you think has come about due to this situation?
So when I was writing everything down, my dominant story kind of changed. So originally it was more about my work situation, my job. Um, you know how you don't really have any control there, right? And with millions out there losing jobs, what's going to prevent me from losing mine? And if I do lose mine, there's millions of extra people right now currently looking for a new job. And that kind of actually on my fourth story, when I started thinking about it more, it started to go like I guess my fourth story might be more of the dominant story, talking about how everything currently that's happening in this world. I mean, the fell of the I guess the potential fell of the economy, which I mean, and then that would also lead to more businesses shutting down. Puts you into, I guess, you talk about the end times and everything, and how you know next, I guess stores going around here as far as certain days, or you can't get this, get that, and just everything that could happen with the fall in the economy. It could just change a whole lot of things, and that's I guess kind of become a more concerning story for me is how unprepared I am in life, and where I'm at currently with. Okay, so if I did lose a job, okay, well that's cool, but if I was, I guess, more self-sustaining, it'd be really not a huge thing versus right now. That's my only thing that I've got. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
So it kind of my focus kind of somewhat changed from my primarily just my job to, well, the current, I guess, situation with the economy and how things could change in a heartbeat as far as what we're experiencing right now to much worse.
yeah, yeah. I think that might be my next one as well. But yeah, well, so just a side note here, like I mean, I'll just level with you guys because yeah, this section is in particular is about faith. So it is going to get into my personal spiritual beliefs. So I'll be sharing those. So you know, I guess I'm gonna, to be really honest, since I'm talking to you, I'm gonna say it to you, Eric. But to be really honest, I think I've always had a problem with the term Christian, but I guess most people would like I would fall under that category for sure. I like
Hmm.
to consider myself like I do. It took me a very long time to truly commit to this, but today I can say like I am a follower of Christ. That's what I like to think of myself as.
Hmm.
So and yeah, like I guess I started on that path when I was like 18, I believe, and I was pretty gung ho about it at an early age, at that age, for a couple of years. But then I really kind of fell away for a long time, and it never like
Hmm.
100% went away. But I think I was running far away from from God, and but anyhow, like through my life experience and through exploring the world and learning about other belief systems, I would say I certainly believe I have a very eclectic, like a very unique, nuanced faith of my own. And I think most people do. It's like there is no.
Hmm.
It's like yeah, you can try to label it, or categorize it or whatever. But personally, yeah, like that's why I kind of have just a problem with the label. But
Yeah.
anyhow, and another thing I want to note, because I do talk about like end time stuff, like yeah, growing up, I was raised with several different, predominantly Christian, but very different flavors of it, but different Christian influences as a kid. Um, one of my grandfathers was actually a essentially a preacher, but I guess what I was given from my youth, like it was mostly more of the hippie Jesus, like the pleasant side and the hopeful stuff, which is great. And even up until recently, like I would never have described myself as like into like the apocalyptic side. I mean, I've read my Bible through, I think twice, all the way through. But anyhow, but yeah, and that last chapter is that last book is very intriguing.
Hmm.
But yeah, like that's just it's kind of a sidebar I want to put out there because it's like, yeah, some of the big fears I had, like I think it was the fact that like, whoa, I'm actually seeing stuff that I've heard other people talk about, and I've like read the stories, but at the same time, like I don't think I ever really had like a deep belief that, at least not that was going to ever happen in my lifetime. And I
Hmm.
was always really more like, even when I wouldn't quite consider myself Christian, like years before, but I mean, even till today, I'm more the type of person, I look out and I'm like how could you not believe in a higher power? Because every day I open my door and the world is not on fire, and people aren't killing
Hmm.
each other. And yeah, all those systems we rely upon, like everything just continues to work, and it always had throughout most of my life, by and large throughout my life. And it's like, as a kid, I didn't realize like what a miracle I think that actually is. But as I grew and got older and became a father and etc., and life got more complex and nuanced, it's like, yeah, I started to really like everything is a miracle, I think, to in a sense. And so yeah, but this whole crisis definitely started putting me in a different frame of mind. And it's not one I've enjoyed, but that's just what it is. I guess that's just the truth. But so okay, so yeah, that was my dominant fear stories, like this kind of apocalyptic vision of basically the end of the world or something. And I do still struggle with, like, yeah, I mean, God knows, God knows when that will come. But okay, so I say that because to set up for this next question. He asked, what evidence do you have that would support this story being true? Is it really like a Book of Revelation scenario, and are we all going to be enslaved and whatever? Um, so what evidence? I said lots of doomsayers online are saying so. The pastor of our neighborhood church here, who he's not here anymore, unfortunately, he's in Texas actually, but the pastor of our church up the road, and a few Christian men who I really have looked up to, in the last several years, and who I respect, like they're talking about the end times and the coming rapture. Like people are just starting to send me crazy stuff, and people who I respect their opinion. And yeah, so that's had a big impact on me. And what else did I write? I said many people, even in my own circle, are misled, almost as if they are under that great delusion which the Bible talks about, and that concerns the f out of me. I said, I know for a fact that there are dark effing forces prevalent throughout society. I've seen what they do to the innocent. I have seen that. The evidence seems to be piling up like mountains. What if this is their end game? What if even QAnon, I said, what if even QAnon is a psyop to mislead kind of the truth seekers and lead us like sheep to the slaughter? So again, just like being really honest, getting it out there. Excuse me. Next question, how do you feel when you believe this story? And I said, scared, terrified, helpless, alone, disgusted, hopeless, anxious. I feel despair, feel almost crazy, but also almost like disobedient to God, because he says, do not fear. I think 365 times in the Bible it says, do not fear. um, yeah, if you have any thoughts, feel free to pop in. But leading off from that,
Yeah, I was going to mention earlier, all the people that I used to look into like on social media and everything like that, and ones that I've actually like started, I guess, valuing their input. went from one side to completely different, I guess, more negative and everything, and some of the things they were saying, it just kind of, well, maybe it is, maybe it's not true, and but yeah, so I understand where you're coming from on that. It's just kind of, it's nice to not have to not look at it so much anymore.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like, you know, if since we're sharing our faith, like, yeah. I mean, I've read that book a few times, and I read it almost daily still, and I think it's at the very least, I think it's the probably the best. It's, you know, you could call it archetypal. Some people, you might even call it metaphorical, and even that's fine. But like, I think it actually, those stories, it's in story structure, but it's like it's the best guidebook to life that exists. I mean, yeah, it's like I'm a little scared to say that these days, you know, because it's not very popular sentiment. But yeah, you don't have to agree with me, but that's my stance. Um, but at the same time, I mean, so I value it like ever increasingly. I guess like the more I study it, the more I really review those stories and try to draw the lessons. And it's like for me personally, like I really like again when I think I read it the first time when I was 18 or 19. And I found it profound even back then because I was studying history and humanities and religions, and I was like, damn, like it's like a history book, there is a significant majority, I think, that you could kind of at least align with historical facts, but but anyhow, like yeah, nowadays, like I look at it and I'm like, I mean, the thing speaks to me. It's like every day, whatever I read, it's speaking to me, like, which probably sounds absurd to some people, but it's like it takes time to really kind of, I guess, unpack what it means. And I do, like, yeah, the older I get, I've learned it's about like what are the lessons there and how can you apply it to yourself, your own circumstances, your life, your relationships, and so on. And so, like, yeah, maybe that's why it's become much more valuable and like alive. But anyhow, all that said, like I value that book more than probably any other. But at the same time, yeah, there's certainly a part of me that wants to, like, no matter what, like if it is literal, and it's not a stretch for me. I'm not 100% decided on it, but like the ending, I guess, is what I'm talking about of that book. Like if that is literal, like I really want to preserve the faith that like like humanity still has a chance, you know. So yeah, I'm rooting to be just optimistic, I guess, no matter what, the I don't know the reality of what that book is and what it means for all of us. But anyhow, okay, sorry, I'm getting a bit off track. But but okay, so you know, I went through like the feelings of hopelessness, despair, feeling crazy, feeling etc. Can you know 100% that story that you're telling yourself is true? And I said no, absolutely not. What evidence do you have that would support this story being false? I also see so many waking up. So many people are talking, sharing the truth out in the open like never before. Friends are coming closer, showing more concern and helping each other out. More people are actually like promoting Jesus and God and faith, like in their social media mostly. But I just see that conversation happening more than ever before. So I think that's generally a good thing. Maybe when we turn to God and repent for our sins, He will forgive us and spare us His wrath. And it's like, yeah, that's my personal spiritual take, but I do think that there's something to that. It's like maybe we've all effed up, maybe we're not living courageously enough, or maybe we've screwed things up, and it's like this is our wake up call, right? Yeah, this concept was told many times to us in the Bible, like like a city usually in the Bible, they would repent for their sins, and God would say, "All right, I won't destroy you in fire." And then I said, "No man can know the time or the season." So it's like, even though there's a lot of doomsayers right now, and there's plenty of people who are kind of afraid that this is the end of the world or whatever you want to label that. I mean, yeah, there's no telling. It could be, but I'm trying to remain hopeful that we still have, you know, get to live out our lives, and I get to meet my daughter, and we can build cool stuff and build good lives. Um, sorry, next question. What might be possible for you at this time if this story wasn't true? And so, yeah, I said maybe God is simply trying to wake us the F up. Maybe this is a miraculous great awakening that will shine a light in the darkness and encourage all mankind to come together and remove the evil from high places and to worship and to love our neighbors. And personally, I think I was saying maybe this is actually the biggest blessing I've ever been given. Like, God works in mysterious ways. But I finally have a garden planted, which is something that I was interested in doing for a long time. I'm starting to finally get free of my vices. It seems that my family is finally starting to really come together. I'm being given an opportunity to lead, like my wife, my family, and this is giving me more purpose and certainty than ever before, which will almost certainly lead to me building my business in the most powerful way possible. So it's like, yeah, that's the strange. At first, I was terrified, but it's like, yeah, it's kind of like lighting that fire under my butt, to actually get out there and do all the things I always wanted to do. And for whatever, it's like in the past with the old stories, I was just letting something. I was just being somewhat stagnant and feeling sorry for myself, and maybe more overcome by frustration. But like, when the pressure's on, when the walls are closing in, when your back is against the wall, it's like it's. I could see already it was really giving me a lot more just energy, more, yeah, more faith to get out there and do better. So yeah, that's the sequence for my dominant fear story, and then yeah, so I'll probably skip through some here because we basically go through that same process for each of the four fear stories. But that was my biggest one. But yeah, then you have the same sequence of questions for each of your four major fear-driven stories that you might be telling yourself. So real quick, I'll just, what was the second fear story? For me, it was like I was saying to myself that my wife and I are on like such completely different levels of perspective with what's going on and diverging growth paths. I felt like in that moment that it will tear our family apart and likely put my children in an irreversibly bad position for the rest of their lives. That's pretty serious. So that was fear story number two. And then, yeah, I'll just to reiterate, like the questions are, what evidence do you have that would support this story being true? How do you feel when you believe that story? Can you know 100% that story you're telling yourself is true? My answer was no. What evidence do you have that would support that story being false? So it's like you play around with it and you look for, because it's like, that's the thing. We're living in a story that we tell ourselves, maybe a story that we hear from our parents or our religious leaders or our teachers or our politicians, or it's a mix of all of that. But we live inside of stories, driven by stories. And the strange thing about the world is like, yeah, you can be on either end of a spectrum as far as the story goes. And you will find evidence to reinforce that story. I mean, that's what we're seeing in the world at the moment, right? It's like, I think people's stories are diverging generally, like in two very different directions, and both sides are so convinced that their story's right because it's like, yeah, you'll find evidence to support whatever story you're telling yourself. It's weird, but the good side, I guess, is like, yeah, we can decide, decide. Actually, that's another quick point. Sorry, I'm going off track, but it just made me reminded me. A couple years back, one of my other mentors said something to me. I think I was trying to figure out his kind of religious or spiritual beliefs, and he really just told me something like, well, I wish I could pull it out verbatim, but it was essentially, he said something like, choose the delusion that works. And like, that's a double-edged sword too, because you could take that negatively, like any religious belief is a delusion. But in this context, it's like, yeah, we're living in stories. Like, so choose the story. Choose your story, the one that you think is going to be most empowering to you, and then go look for the evidence of that. And I don't think he shares my perspective today, but like that was one little step on my path that really kind of helped allow me go back to my faith again, like, and really dive back in and really recommit to it, because it was like, you know what, you're right. Like, no matter what any of us believes, it's like there's evidence for it, there's evidence against it. So yeah, I kind of recommitted to, like, well, this is the one I want to believe and I think is the best for me. So yeah, no, and it sometimes faith, in a religious or spiritual sense, and maybe it starts as that. It's like, it's not, it's something you kind of have to work to build, and it takes time. But yeah, today I have a very strong faith. So anyhow, to get back to these questions, apologies, but yeah. So what evidence do you have that would support it? How do you feel when you believe that story? Can you know 100% that that story is true? And then flip it on the other side. What evidence do you have that would support this story being false? And lastly, what might be possible for you at this time if this story wasn't true? So that's kind of the sequence for you repeat this over with each of your 4 fear stories. With that particular one, about my wife and I and the family concern, kind of just feeling like we were kind of seeing things very differently, and I had this fear it was going to pull us apart in a detrimental way. But yeah, just to wrap it, what might be possible for me at this time if that story wasn't true? I said maybe it could be possible to improve our communication, work on our marriage together productively, follow God faithfully, and share a personal growth journey together through life. So that was a pretty good reframe. My fear story number 3 was, I think this was along the lines of what you were saying earlier. I said, if this stupid fear pandemic continues for 3 to 6 months or more, which it has, by the way, by now. I mean, this was 5 months ago. But I said, yeah, if it continues for 3 to 6 months or more, the whole world will experience an economic depression like never seen before. And Jam and I are simply not in a position to overcome the odds, no matter how hard we try at this point. So I was afraid, like, we're already kind of maybe like what you were, pointing at, like, yeah, we're already in a situation where we've got too many vulnerabilities and just not doing financially well enough to like build up what I wish I had, like that's how I was feeling at that point. But again, like by that end of this sequence, what might be possible for me at this time if that story isn't true? I said, maybe I could just get on with the work, and just maybe I will actually have more people's attention now than ever before. More people are awakening. More people will want to rewrite their story. More people will be looking to understand the power of personal narrative. So again, it's like it doesn't even sound like it, I could share every step in between, but yeah, like I went from terror over, the worst case scenario that I was imagining, about, and there is some reality to that. Like, yeah, we should be concerned about it because, I mean, some supply chains are, and have broken down, and But I went from that to like, actually, this is a great situation for me economically, in when I look at my facts. And then fear story number 4. At the very least, we're at the mercy of every authoritarian, corrupt, effing politician out here in Asia and every trigger-happy enforcer in the streets with a gun to even survive. And our ability to thrive and reach abundance will be severely limited in ways outside our control by a world full of fearful sheep driven to turn on and snitch on each other in a battle for survival. Damn. So that almost sounds like it could be like a description for a horror movie. But there was some, maybe I'll share, what evidence do I have that would support, so that, I guess, maybe just to set the context, since you guys aren't in my head, that was really more about like my immediate situation here in the Philippines, in the third world, quote unquote. It is a little different out here than in America. Although at this point it's wild because, and that, this was the beginning of April, so I believe that was before any of the protests and stuff. So it kind of blows my mind now. Like, yeah, it's gotten to a point that surprises me faster than I thought it might in the U.S. While, meanwhile, here, the lockdown sucks. There's a lot that makes life more difficult. It's frustrating, but it's remained much more consistent, I guess, over those 5 months. But anyhow, at that time, I was really, because early on we had an issue. I was just trying to take my wife to. I think I told you guys the story. I was trying to take my wife to the doctor because she's pregnant and she had a doctor's appointment. And I had a guy on the bridge at a checkpoint, basically, what do you call it? What's the word? Like, trying to be intimidating with me, and get me to turn back around and go home with a big, giant, automatic, an AR or something. And there was a time when early on Duterte, the president of the Philippines, came on national TV and kind of chewed everyone out, saying like, yeah, if you break the rules, if you're out past curfew, I'll have my... I said, what did I say? Duterte has said he will have his dogs shoot people in the street who don't obey. That's why I wrote it. But he literally did say that on national TV. Did you see that?
I had heard some things about it, and one of the things that I had seen, even I mean, U.S. based people, and I guess it can go anywhere. It's kind of sad how people just blindly follow orders and they don't really have integrity to, I guess, to think for themselves at the same time, to do the right thing, and they just kind of do as they're told. And I know you're being given an order by commander in chief or your president and everything, and the consequences could be pretty big, but at the same time, is it right?
Yeah.
And to me, it just that doesn't make sense. Them, I guess, following all those orders whenever. I mean, I don't know. I guess it kind of depends on their take on the whole situation as well. But I think there's a lot of, I guess, misguided people in a way.
Yeah.
That are just following what they're told.
Yeah. I mean, that's the nature of the world, I guess, right? But that was one of several kind of specific instances that did happen where it's like, I mean, at the time I was thinking like, my fucking family back home, excuse me for cursing, but my family wouldn't believe this, like some of these things, I wish I could just like download my experience or whatever, my memory into another person's brain, because some of it is just like, yeah, this is a movie or something, right? Like this isn't real life. But that was one of the points of contention with my wife. I think like part of why I was so frustrated and feeling that just this division, this resistance early on. I mean, I will preface it by saying like I kind of liked Duterte in many ways, and this isn't like, Not trying to make friends or enemies, but like there was a lot I liked about that guy up until especially this crisis. But I don't care who it is. My personal it's been a long time I've lived outside the states. It's been a long time since I voted, and that's probably going to upset some people. But yeah, I've long been just like a like don't bother me, and I won't bother you, and unless it's something more local that really impacts me or that I can have an influence on, it's like it doesn't really concern me that much, you know. Like Trump, Obama, whatever, you know, like it's life goes on, you know, and I'm just building my thing. That's my worldview.
Like
My wife
over
was
there on
very. I was just gonna say she's very different, you know. Like she and her, I think it's because they're all from Mindanao. Like she, and maybe more my mother-in-law, but you know, they really have more of what I would, in my perspective, comes across as like that blind. Um, Not submission, but like respect of authority, you know. And like you say, it's like I mean, yeah, there's something to be said for that when the authority is like genuinely benevolent, but especially that like I saw that and I saw a few different actions happening around the country, and I pointed them out to her, and I'm like really, like you want to put more trust in this person who's like shouting and cursing on television that he'll kill you if you don't do what he says, you know, then your own husband, or then whatever people that you actually have a relationship with, you know, like that's where it bothers me. But anyhow, I'm ranting. Did you have something to throw in there?
No, I was gonna say, on Mindanao, they went through their martial law, and I believe they ended up lifting it, and then this lockdown comes back in throughout all the Philippines, and it basically puts everybody under like the circumstances of martial law, checkpoints everywhere, and it's just okay, it's just Eric just lifted one martial law and back into pretty much another one.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, I don't know what it's like wherever all you guys tuning in. You know, whoever sees this in the end, like it's different everywhere. But and I know it's pretty heavy-handed in a lot of places. But yeah, certainly here it's been very very strict compared to what I'm used to as a freedom-loving American. You know, although thankfully, with the exception of one area not far from us, but they still have all the checkpoints set up, but they haven't been manned for the last couple of weeks. So that's kind of, you know, just makes life a little easier for now. You know, I'll just throw this in there. Another random story. I started to get so freaked out because one day, like they came, like it was, you know, I saw this gradually all this infrastructure appearing. And like I think they're mostly actually police or SWAT, but like they're wearing like military style fatigues, a lot of them, and yeah, with the big guns, the long guns, and all these checkpoints, and yeah, we still have to have like I guess they could just call it a quarantine pass, but it's like your permission slip from the local mayor, and you know we're still under curfew, still blah blah blah. Like my son can only go out technically a few days a week, etc. But then, you know, all this kept creeping up. One day, they're literally in my front yard, not in my front yard, but sorry, out front of my house, like outside my front gate, in the street in front of my house. And they put I was like, what is going on? You know, like they put a roadblock in front of my house. And there's a few, not very many, but a couple cops, like in full in like military style garb, and a couple. I think they were training local volunteers to like shut down our neighborhood, and that really kind of just put me on edge, like having them literally in front of my house with a checkpoint, you know, like there was no ins and outs. So yeah, it was just weird. It's just a weird time, like all these experiences, and some of it right on my doorstep, and I did start to get rather paranoid and just pissed, just frustrated. Anyhow, but okay, so yeah, all that frustration and fear about the local situation, the end of that little journey with that fear story, um, I said, what might be possible for you at this time if this story wasn't true? And again, like, yeah, this is coming from my particular spiritual perspective, which you guys do not have to agree with, but at least respect mine. And I think Eric, I think you probably share mostly a similar metaphysic, so you might understand this. But yeah, what would be possible for me if this story wasn't true? I said, this could be a time of great revival, and it is surely a big wake-up call to the world. God uses things like this to bring the people back to Him. So maybe I should just trust God's plan, the bigger plan. I think even before I really developed that spiritual connection again, like you could call it the universe's plan, or call it life's plan for you, fate, whatever. Although that doesn't have the same ring to it. But anyhow, this does seem to be a time of great awakening, and I am particularly plugged in with a lot of people in the conscious community, faith groups, sovereign-minded groups, etc. What a time to be alive, really. What a time to be me. This could be my silver platter. God's calling me to rise. So again, life, you could say life is calling me to rise. But that was where I got from that fear about like the guns in the streets, the checkpoints, the martial law, the curfew. Like it was looking like 1984, and they were really intimidating the people. I would say locally here, intimidating the people into submission, by my definition, in a big way. They had an exercise in Cebu, the neighboring island, that they made sure to broadcast it across all the local news here. Where they did a practice. What do they call it? At first, I thought it was real, but they were like, it's a training exercise, whatever. But they're out like in cities, in the slums, in the streets in the city streets, shooting, I guess, rubber bullets, but shooting at actor protesters. I don't know. It was an exercise, they said, but it's like, yeah, here's a visual of what we will do to you if you don't obey our rules, So just lots of scaremongering. But we went from that, the scaremongering, the threats from the president that he's going to have people shot who don't obey, the me being personally confronted with a big AR-15 in the street, and a checkpoint, a lockdown right in my front yard, essentially, to this could be my silver platter. Maybe God is calling me to rise. So yeah, following that sequence for each of these fear stories, for me, like, I was able to really turn them around. And I think it's just a fantastic process to go through. If you're there, buddy, what do you think? Do you have any other thoughts on like your fear stories, or anything that any progress you've made with them, going from negative to positive?
So a lot of the stuff that I have written down, there's no factual evidence really. I mean, other than the lack of jobs and everything, there's nothing really stating or anything solidifying my thoughts on everything. It's all kind of just because of all the negative stuff that I had been taking in, all the news and social media stuff, and it's kind of gotten to where I started believing things that I probably shouldn't have, and making it out to be more, I guess, fearful than I guess where I'm at now. But it's not near as crazy here as you've experienced over there with the roadblocks and everything. We've had, I think, curfews at one point, and hours of stores are still adjusted here, but it's nothing too crazy.
Well, that's good. I'm glad for you. I hope they let us out of jail here soon. But in the meantime, it's like, that's the thing, you know. They keep you long enough, and it's like this. It really does become the new normal. But whatever, we'll
Hmm.
do what we can. But yeah, I mean, at least you heard several of my like deep dark fears, right? And how
Hmm.
and I you know maybe you kind of had at least brush up with some of those same type of fears too. Maybe others did too. Um, but yeah, like I think early on, yeah, I guess what I want to say is like yeah, when like we don't know what's going on, we don't really know. We know the
Hmm.
facts of our own lives, but we don't know the facts out there in the broader world, and we don't know when this virus situation will end. We here we don't know when the lockdown will end. We don't know. There's a lot of things we don't know, and it's a big change coming from a world where we thought we used to think we knew, you know, a lot of what was going on. So I guess I think that's the biggest challenge here. Is it's like we've all been plunged into like a very uncertain time, and when you're just surrounded with when the rug is torn out from under you, and like you thought you knew what was going on, but now obviously you really have no idea, and there's so many things you don't know. You know, that's like chaos in the mind. I think we were saying the other day, it's like you burn a lot of calories because your mind is just searching. What the hell is going on, right? And looking for evidence, and but yeah, it's like, is there real evidence for our worst fears, for the worst case scenario? Often, no, right? But it's that
As you mentioned,
uncertainty that really overwhelms us.
I was gonna say, as you mentioned earlier, there's a story supporting every possible theory out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that thing that my it was Jeremy Franson who told me that
Hmm.
a couple years back. He said, "Yeah, choose the delusion that works." I'm pretty sure that was it in a nutshell. It was helpful. It was helpful. Okay,
Hmm.
so moving on. So next, Garrett says, as you conclude this action map, what insights or revelations about yourself and your stories are you left with? I said, in times of great adversity, great men are crafted. I can choose to be one of them and lead with faith and positivity in a landscape where much of the competition is being swept away as we speak. I have spent the time to develop some of the qualities and strengths I used to lack, and it appears just in time for this great turmoil. So maybe I'm being molded by God or by life to become the leader He always saw in me. And I said, I must keep my eyes on Jesus, and I must guard my stories from the countless enemies. Do not give in to despair. Do not listen to the serpents with their fear porn and negativity. That was my message to myself. Um, what actions do you feel must take? Sorry, what actions do you feel you must take immediately based on this insight or revelation? And I had five, which is maybe too much. But one, I said, I've got to continue to share this powerful stack training series with my community. Two, invest my time in breaking down the stages of the hero's journey and build a core course around that I've been saying I was going to do for some time. Three, remain committed to my daily Bible study and stay connected to the voice, that inner voice, my conscience, kind of my way of communing with what I conceive of as God, my relationship with that. Four, move quickly to help get my community active, building their businesses. I said, I think I made a note about the One Funnel Away challenge. Actually, I thought that would be a good resource for you, so our people can thrive through this difficult time. I said, five, clarify my story and start actively sharing the message through social media. Stop focusing on all the problems. Take my own medicine and focus on solutions. And I think that's the end. So yeah, like to wrap it up, I think I had a great or summary, a great lesson learned there. And that's why I've been pushing more like, yeah, this is our time to rise. Like, because I truly feel that at this point, and I've spent enough time reinforcing my stories. Like, yeah, I see how even if we are going into a really, really, really challenging period of time, historically speaking, like I studied history, so I've read some horrible stuff, and it, like in many ways it does look like, yeah, we may be revisiting some, we would call it unprecedented times, but it's just circumstances that none of us probably ever thought we would encounter again. So, but even if, yeah, even if we have another Great Depression, or the world as we know it geopolitically falls apart, and there's a period of just horribleness while things sort themselves out again. Like I do, having studied history, like, it's not the first time this has happened, and it looks kind of like maybe we are on the precipice of one of those periods of time of transition. And but I guess I came away with that. My main takeaway was like, that's when great men are crafted, are sculpted, right, by history. It's like I think of I think of Jesus actually. There's a lot going on at that time with the Roman Empire, but like the actual kings and military leaders like Marcus Aurelius, Napoleon. Like there's a lot of they might not be all good, but there's a lot of kind of inspiring leaders and great men, I would say, who they rose up because like they lived in a chaotic time and the world was crazy. And so I don't know, that was my takeaway. It's like maybe that's where we're going, but yeah, I think if you choose your story, if you choose the delusion that works and like look for that evidence to support it, you can choose to be the hero. You can choose to be a leader in even in a hard time, because the world is going to need leaders. So yeah, this really helped me. I just feel like, yeah, I definitely came out way more positive by the end of this third segment, than I was at the beginning, right? And then yeah, I had 5 takeaway actions that really provoked me to start getting out there and being productive, and just focusing on my work, on building what I can. So that's again kind of why I'm encouraging all of us to, like, yeah, let's do what's in our power. Let's build ourselves up. Let's lead by example and see what happens. And I pray for the best. So yeah, that was my awaken faith exercise. What do you think, buddy? Any more thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, well, it's not near as I mean, even though I haven't completed or was going through the third one, it's not near as rough as I was expecting or I was thinking at the time, or like just even a few weeks ago when we were doing this. It's not the first rough time in history, and it won't be the last. There'll always be times of or rough times. And we'll just recover again.
Yeah. And for me personally, I think, yeah, like my faith has grown in these last 5 months. Like it was already, I would say, pretty darn strong, like on my scale going into this. But, yeah, at the beginning, I really had a deep plunge into the abyss, and kind of maybe, yeah, just what how would I say it? Like kind of marinated in the paranoia and the frustration for too long. But yeah, I really like this journaling process helped a lot, and several other things. But by now, yeah, it's like I'm looking back at this writing I did 5 months ago, and I'm kind of laughing frequently at it. Like I do take it seriously too. It's like, because yeah, God knows, like we don't know. It's just all unknown. But I think that like it was the initial shock of of having that rug pulled out from under us, right? It's like a lot of the things we thought were true don't seem to be true, and who knows what is true. And that's a big adjustment to make, like to live in that uncertainty when you're not accustomed to that much uncertainty. So I think that's the big real underlying problem that we all have, like society wise, that's making people angry and frustrated, of course, and causing lots of problems, unfortunately. But yeah, like what hard, cold facts I can identify mostly, like I don't think it's nearly as bad, as my initial gut reaction was, right? Like that worst case scenario, that deepest fear scenario. So and yeah, like it's like the faith element for me at least is it's like, well, like even if I die tomorrow, like this is very very something extreme to say, but even if I do, I kind of came to terms with it in a sense. It's like I'm just gonna do the best I can for as long as I'm around. And yeah, I'm not really interested in living in fear. A lot of people seem to be still stuck at that stage, but I'm not. I mean, I would like to live while I'm here. I'd rather like truly live, and even if it means I have a short life, then have a long life but wrapped up in a bubble and afraid to go outside in the world. Like that's not living, if you ask me. And we can't help the hand we're given, I guess, but we just got to play it as best we can. So we'll see how things go. But I'm yeah, much more optimistic than I was at the beginning, even though this has dragged on for ages. So, any concluding thoughts, my friend, before we wrap it up?
No, we're everything. I think it went really well. It was nice to hear or to go through these stacks with you.
Yeah, buddy. Well, yeah.
So,
Thank you again so much. I really just enjoy, yeah, like sharing with you and having someone to, kind of open up with and bounce ideas off of each other. Yeah. So at the end of this third part, I think I was already coming across like way on a whole different level than I was at the beginning, and we still have two more steps to go. So the fourth part of the sequence is create focus. So that's, yeah, like really honing in on what is relevant to you and your world, your business, your family, your immediate surroundings. It's about like, yeah, your where are you going to place your attention, and what are you focused on doing, I guess. And so kind of builds us up to set goals and just stay relevant, right? Rather than getting lost in all the chaos out there. It's unending chaos out there. So yeah, let's try to hone in on our path, our hero's journey, where we're going, and with the mastermind in the next 2 weeks, I think we'll start to shift, yeah, to like hyper focus, on the day-to-day tasks and things that we can get done to build, and just work on what's in front of us as best we can. Yeah, what do you say? You want to do same time again tomorrow? We'll see if we can.
yeah, that'd be good.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, buddy. Well, yeah.
If you're good with that.
Yeah. See how much you can get through today, and yeah,
Okay.
I'll visit with you again tomorrow. I think what was just a final side note for you. I do think so. That's your Thursday morning, right?
Yes.
Tomorrow. Yeah. So Thursday. I may do a call. I think Rico's available Thursday night, your guys' time. So if you can, if you have the energy, like, yeah, if you want to join me for that, I think we might just do like an intro to Joseph Campbell, the hero with 1,000 faces.
Okay, that'd be good.
So we probably won't dive too deeply into the actual content, but just like, like setting up the frame, and we're probably starting with the preface and stuff. But yeah, if you can be there, that'd be awesome.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
All right, buddy. Well, yeah, let's set it in the calendar, 8 a.m. your time tomorrow, right?
Yes.
And then, yeah, if you can make it, I'll keep you updated about the time, but probably something in the evening tomorrow also. But thanks,
All
bud.
right, sounds good.
Thanks for all your help, and yeah, have a great day, man.
All right, thanks, man. You too.
All right, brother. See ya.
Bye.